Hello and welcome to CVG. We're here to talk about our most anticipated third-party games of E3. And to clarify, third-party games are those that don't belong directly to the console holders, so people like Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo. We've been polling for, well, all games most anticipated on CVG. Perhaps with surprise results, the number one game so far is Ubisoft's Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
I was unsurprised by that. Shall I tell you why? I was in a Pizza Express the other day. It's a pizza place in Britain, American viewers. And my waiter, I was talking about video games with my girlfriend, and he overheard, and he said, "Oh, can you tell me about that Watch Dogs? I need to know about Watch Dogs." So clearly, for a new IP, there's already. I'm basing it on one waiter,
But still,
but there's a buzz out there, yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know what it reminded me of? Is you remember when the last generation kicked off? The biggest new IP by a mile was Assassin's Creed, and Ubi did a great job of making people excited about that world and that character, like right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And I think they've, certainly in terms of buzz, they've pulled that off with Watch Dogs already. Now, whether the game delivers on it, you remember if you remember back to the original Assassin's Creed, there were essentially 3 mission types in it, which repeated forever. So I think probably question marks still over the content of Watch Dogs. We want to go hands on with it and see that it delivers on the premise, but the premise appears to have really captured the imagination, and I expect that to be definitely one of the biggest games of the show.
Effectively, they've just gone first, because at last year's E3 there was this talk of there being like a mini next-gen reveal, and there was a couple of games shown that were like technically next-gen, including the now gone Star Wars 13. You know, and that always looked pretty hokum, right? It didn't look like a fully formed game. It looked like a sort of
It was a vertical slice demo, wasn't it?
Yeah, Agnes Philosophy that was like some fantastical moon vision of the future that, again, looked amazing, but kind of didn't look like a game. And like of all the things we saw, Watch Dogs was the one that said it's definitely better than you're expecting from your current consoles. It looks slightly better than even PC. It's properly cutting edge. And like you say, I think they've nailed the universe that people want to live in.
Yeah, I think it's definitely more than just a tech. I think there's something about getting a character who feels iconic, doing things that you haven't previously done, although it's open world. Blending the kind of that sort of cyber espionage and it still being quite sort of gritty. It was quite violent, wasn't it, the first trailer? They're masters, I think, at that kind of that sort of art design that makes people want to experience it, and in a way that a lot of other games fail. I mean,
I find it really interesting because people really like the GTA style of game. They like those open world games where you can sort of do anything you want, and it's amazing that everyone used to do them and now only one company does, and obviously Rockstar. And so it's great to see another challenger to it. Yeah, and also this is a new IP as well. I mean, like the last 3 years, the industry's been a bit pedestrian, I would say, right?
Yeah.
A bit predictable.
Well, risk averse, certainly.
Risk averse, yeah. And I just remember when Watch Dogs was revealed, and you could just feel the excitement, because there was a new flagship game.
Because otherwise it's box ticking, is it? You go, well, I know I'm getting a new COD, a new FIFA, a new Rainbow Six, if they ever work out how to make it, all the terrorism stuff sort of acceptable. But what are some of the other new IPs that you guys are excited about seeing there?
Well, what are the CVG readers looking forward to, Rob?
They are really looking forward to, I know it's not a new IP, but it's almost a revived IP, and they're looking forward to Thief as well.
Okay.
Which, I mean, we haven't heard that much about Thief, right?
There was one trip out to Montreal where a few journalists sort of saw the lighting stuff demoed and some of the animation. What surprised me about seeing the CVG list actually is there was like 2 or 3, maybe 4 sort of stealthy type games in there. I think Metal Gear was quite high up as well. Metal Gear 5, Phantom Pain. Yeah. And I wonder if a little bit some of the fascination with the FPS genre is starting to ebb away. I don't feel like although there's a lot of them around, I don't feel the sense of excitement about the next COD, the next Battlefield necessarily.
There's only so much you can do with them, right?
You can gun a lot of people down.
Yeah,
I've done that.
There's only so much you can add to it, and now they're resorting to like, here's a dog. That's how limited the innovation.
It feels like that was quite a specific tipping point moment. The dog.
yeah. Jumps the dog.
I like the dog as well.
Tim and I have talked previously about it. I don't buy that you can't make a revolutionary, game-changing FPS. I think there's scope to do that. It's just that what happened, sort of weirdly, ironically, is that Call of Duty 4 came out. sort of changed the rules of what we expected of shooters, but ironically at the same time set the template in stone that's been followed for all time.
But that goes back to exactly what Rob was saying, was that GTA burst onto the scene with GTA 3, and then there's a lag because it takes 2 years to make a video game.
Yeah.
Whereby 2 years down the line, all these kind of Me Too open world games came through. In the same way as on PS1 after Metal Gear Solid arrived, then 2 years later, every game had stealth elements. You know, like Harry Potter had stealth sections in it, and then everyone grows tired of it, and stealth falls out of fashion. But maybe now with the likes of Dishonored was a good example of it. We sort, it's like skirt lengths and stuff. The fashion
We've
comes
just
and
gone
goes
through
on
a
cycles.
wave of like post Christopher Nolan gritty games where every character's tortured until an hour in when they're suddenly an efficient killing machine. And that's another sweeping trend we've had. Now, I thought from the CVG list it was interesting that most of the games almost were like harking back to the good old days of it's me and my console, single player, I'm going to get really involved with like a really meaty single player adventure.
I think you see that with The Last of Us, which is out almost now, depending on when you watch this. That story-driven stuff where you can actually see the characters and see them interacting with each other. That was a big part of, I think, Uncharted success, is you saw the characters, being able to see their faces is not to be understated. The traditional FPS guy is taciturn and unseen. It's you're watching a pair of hands forever, and like however good that reload animation is, it's still Master Chief's a classic example. Isn't he? His guy doesn't. He's almost not there.
Yeah,
it's an interesting trend as well with third-party games. Is that I think we're going to see fewer of them actually. Next generation, I think they're going to be bigger.
Yeah,
but they're going to be fewer in numbers. And if you look at something like Destiny, that's like a 10-year project, essentially, isn't it? You play the game and you sort of you play into this franchise, don't you? And
you're creating series and almost like life events or continuums to buy into.
Do you think there's a tough question, Rob, for the publishers who are greenlighting these games? Is
absolutely.
You either greenlight a Destiny that you throw hundreds of people in terms of dev team through, and you plan it to be a trilogy from the start, and all that you throw all that resource at the wall, and you have a marquee developer doing it, or you end up making games which are kind of, I don't want to be disparaging, but like a B type game, like a Remember Me, that almost has no chance of breaking out, but that won't sink the company if it fails. I think those big games like a Destiny and that, without sounding like Mark from Peep Show, you're making games that are almost like too big to fail, because if they fail, they're going to sink definitely studios and potentially. A couple of failures, they'll sink a whole publisher.
Yeah, because that's their whole publishing lineup as well, right? The interesting thing is we kind of have that with COD, don't we? In Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 1 was just outstanding, and then they sort of turned that into buying, a series for 7 years. Now they're sort of trying to direct that themselves, aren't they? Activision and EA. They're trying to direct it by saying, here is a game, and you would definitely buy this game, and you would definitely continue to pay for this game years in advance. These are massive, massive bets.
You see, there's the parallel. There's a parallel there to be drawn actually with Hollywood. And I was thinking about this the other day watching the Star Trek film, which I won't spoil again for you, Dan. Is that they make Hollywood is now obsessed with making trilogies, because the first one is to get you in, it's the gateway drug. Then you have the second, and the third pays the story off. Whether it's Batman or whatever.
I mean, we live in a universe
bloody Hobbit up
where there's been 6 Fast and the Furious films.
Yeah,
that's happened.
It's about buying people into these brands. So when you make something like a Watch Dogs, Ubisoft, you can bet your last franc are going in their minds. They've got what Watch Dogs 3 and 4 are going to be. How that absolutely plays out.
Yeah, in fact, Ubisoft Montreal are building new IP, right? And I'm sure there are plans to build franchises basically to build on and build on and build on. So essentially, the next generation is going to be the same as this one in that. We're going to play the same games.
Better graphics.
Well,
let's sell the dream up.
Let's talk about games that we're actually excited about. Just personally, really.
Well, I'm just so hype for Phantom Pain.
That's a surprise because Dan's not really that interested.
Really? Oh, I mean, why are you so interested in Phantom Pain?
Well, I mean, apart from the fact I've written about 35,000 words for it on CVG over the last year.
And you know everything about Metal Gear.
I'm endlessly fascinated by Hideo Kojima. I think he's one of the few, and it's partly of his own creation, this idea of he's a lone auteur with these magical thoughts and patterns about the world, and he's able to shape his own game around his will, which is almost a completely unique and unprecedented thing in the world of AAA now. Yeah. You could argue that Ken Levine or someone like that's on a similar keel, but by and large it's almost like the preserve of indie now. For a AAA developer who's all about the big experience to produce something that's idiosyncratic, and probably as a result, slightly messed up and awful, because Metal Gear Solid 4, it simultaneously stands as one of the masterpieces of the generation and a flaming hot mess.
And a bit of a mess, yeah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff in it, but when he gets
But I'll
it
take
right,
that mess over like another.
yeah, it's a spectacular mess. And he's always aiming for something better. He's trying to relay a message. And intrinsically, as much as he wants to be a filmmaker, as people claim,
How long's that final scene in for?
oh,
Isn't
astonishingly,
it like about
long.
40 minutes? 30, 40 minutes?
Easily
when
that.
you tack the cutscenes
Easily that.
together?
It made the end of the Lord of the Rings trilogy look concise. It really did. And I think what he does, essentially, though, he loves games and he loves game mechanics and he makes these thoughtful games that would nod to cinema, but essentially in a world of games. I don't entirely buy, as much as he loves film, that he's obsessed with film to the point that he doesn't care about games.
No, I think he loves the idea of play and playfulness, and yeah, I mean, I think if you're not excited or at least interested in what Kojima's doing, you're nuts.
Yeah, not to want to put too much hyperbole on it, but I honestly think that his games are once in a generation games. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 2 was the bravest thing I've ever seen because it was a AAA game that was genuinely nuts. I mean, you know,
It's madness. Yeah,
you don't even see that in films. You don't see film studios taking risks as big as that, and I think he's one of the only people in the world that can build games that he could, you know, as you say, can direct himself and not compromise in any way. So that's why I'm really looking forward to it, because it's going to be mental.
Yeah, I can't even talk more about it because it'll be way beyond the remit of this show. Essentially, I'm also super hyped for that. Tim, what else are you excited about?
I'm really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Bethesda show. Like, they'll have obviously the Evil Within, the Shinji Mikami game, and I'm like a big horror fan, so I'll be looking forward to that. But I want to see, aside from Elder Scrolls Online, what their next big console and PC sort of single player game is. And like the smart money, or like seemingly everyone's money, is that it will be Fallout, which would make a lot of sense. Although my one reservation with that is that Fallout doesn't, given that it's like a radiation blasted wasteland, doesn't feel like it's got quite the same capacity for showing off new graphics engines as perhaps a Skyrim or an Elder Scrolls game does. But the logic has to be that it would be Fallout. But they've always been like as great as Skyrim was and Fallout 3 were, especially on PlayStation. They've been dogged by that engine not quite being up to scratch. So I hope that they can.
Gen, though.
I hope they can hit the next gen with, like, especially with them being so PC focused. Those machines, it should absolutely play into their hands.
There's already like spec'd out PC versions of Skyrim that run at incredible resolutions.
Yeah.
Look,
Some of the mods.
Genuinely beautiful. It's just genuinely beautiful scenes running at that resolution. Bring that to next gen without any of the loading times or the door opening and waiting. That game is incredible.
I'd love them to come out with like a Fallout that really blew people away.
Like you say, the danger is it's going to be set in the grey irradiated wasteland.
Yeah, but you can do. I mean, as Last of Us, again, without wanting to keep going about that, has shown, you can do like beautiful apocalypse stuff. That was what Gears sort of sold itself on originally as well.
Anything else you're looking forward to, Rob?
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to the new Batman as well, I suppose, but mainly because
don't force yourself to like
grudgingly.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it because, you know, I love the Arkham games, and I think Warner Brothers are really interesting because they're one of the only film studios that has really understood how to work in games, and it's by, you know, putting really great talent on your best franchises. And that's why Arkham City and Arkham Asylum were such fantastic games. And I know everyone's like, okay, well, the new Batman game is, you know, made at Warner Brothers Montreal, but, you know, there's still going to be a lot of care and attention brought to that game. And I don't know, I just like being Batman.
Well, our time's quite tight, so I'm going to power through some games that are coming.
All right.
And you can leap in if there's something really exciting you want to talk about. We've just been talking off air about they've announced Titanfall.
Yeah, that's the new Respawn game.
Which is sort of mechs versus men in
sci-fi. It's Shadow of the Colossus, but with metal things.
My concern with that is it sounds like it's really multiplayer focused. I mean, as Infinity Ward's, you know, they redefine multiplayer with Call of Duty 4. But like, my worries with those sorts of games, like, I'm an old man now, Dan. Like, within about 2 days, the kids will be so much better at it. Then it'll become only a place of death and tears for me to explore.
It's a dispiriting experience when you think you're on the cusp and then come back 2 days later.
But fascinating to see what they come back with.
Yeah, I'm interested in a lot of what EA show that isn't obvious. As in, EA are going to EA are going to talk about, let's say Titanfall's been announced, possibly Mirror's Edge 2, probably a new Need for Speed. Battlefield 4 weirdly doesn't feel exciting for me, as good and technically strong that is.
Yeah, it was exciting like about 6 months ago, wasn't it? But I think everyone's just trying to exhale all of that now.
The tricky thing with Battlefield is I mean, they spent so much time showing it on crazily pimped out PCs. You felt like you'd seen what it looked like on next gen anyway, and it will look really good. But like I thought the campaign of the last game was terrible actually.
Yeah,
the multiplayer was great, but the campaign was rubbish.
They've got a lot to solve. There's some things EA might do that haven't been talked about as much. One is Criterion are rumoured to be working on a new game that isn't racing in a car. So that's amazing.
But I don't think they've said that it isn't driving.
Oh.
I think they said it isn't racing, but I wouldn't rule out that it's still being
Burnout
lifestyle driving.
Well, it's definitely not burnout.
Driving.
It's explicitly not burnout.
So cars not ruled out. Also EA, this is something again that's been rumoured but not really talked about. EA have acquired the Disney stuff and Star Wars.
They'll definitely be talking about the Star Wars.
We're 2 years away from new Star Wars films.
It's too early to show anything.
But they
might show some art that
they've
Star Wars
confirmed
artist has put together.
I tell you what I really hope for generally from the third parties is no more, or at least a lot less of this just CG trailer stuff. Because a CG trailer in this generation looks the same as a CG trailer looked like in the last generation. It doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
Beyond like going, this is what some of our characters might sort of semi look like. The disconnect is
No, obviously
crazy now.
Yeah, we're a very cosmopolitan bunch of people, aren't we?
Speak for yourself.
We've chronically run on.
Okay.
Anything we expect from quickly Capcom, anything hot? Dragon's Dogma 2 we talked about on our Sony show.
Capcom, the bigger question for them is what are they going to do with the Resident Evil franchise? The last game was underwhelming and a bit of a complete hodgepodge of trying to please 3 different imagined consumers. That I think that franchise, which they Mikami saved with 4, is now back in all sorts of trouble, and I'd be interested to see if they've got anything new to show on that.
You asked me not to ask you about Sega. What do you think about Sega?
I've got no opinion on Sega.
That bad.
Yeah. Well, I don't. What have Sega got? Football Manager.
Yeah, they got Football Manager.
That's not an E3 game.
Yeah.
The spreadsheets do. Yeah.
But also, I'm fairly confident we're going to see a new Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Capcom think they're going to make as much money this financial year as they did last year. They think they're going to make more money this year. So there has to be...
Perhaps they put like a massive bet on somewhere. It's just going... That's going to pay off.
Bet on a horse.
Yeah. It could be that, a long foot turn back.
Yeah, I found a horse called Ryu. I've got a really good feeling about it. Who else? Square Enix,
cosmopolitan bunch of people. I think
Final
Fantasy is going to be a big deal, is it?
If they get it right.
I don't care about these games, so it's very hard to tell.
They've got to kind of bring that out of its ghetto.
Why haven't they made another Final Fantasy Tactics? I don't even understand it. This is like a thing that I ask the boys on the Nintendo mags every year. Like, why don't Square make Final Fantasy Tactics anymore? They're re-releasing the original on the iPad, but make a new one. Jesus Christ!
Aren't they destroying the Final Fantasy brand by not to want to use too strong language, but aren't they really hurting that brand by just throwing out Final Fantasy 13-1, Final Fantasy 13-2.
It's the most confusing nomenclature of any game ever, with this subset of a dash with a 2 and a 3.
That's definitely weird. I think the problem is they invest so much time in that engine and that world, that they needed to squeeze more than one game out of it. I think it's all a financial thing. 13, actually, if you played it, the battle system was incredible. Like, it's really deep and interesting and complex. But the stuff in between was really anachronistic and dull. So.
But apparently Final Fantasy 14 has been released, right? It's out there and everything, isn't it?
14?
Yeah, isn't it an online game?
But it got switched off, right?
Oh, right. So now what do? Do they say here's 15 or 14?
It's like that scene in Goodfellas. They're sticking things to the ceiling and it's going to catch fire. So I imagine what they do with that.
For the answers to all these questions, tune back to CBG. I'm sorry if we've forgotten a game you're really looking forward to. There's a lot of games out there. We've hit what we think we're looking forward to. We've forgotten a biggie. Lots more reaction to E3 on CBG. Please subscribe on screen now. And until the next time, we'll see you soon.